You ever wonder why silence makes people so uncomfortable? It's like standing in the middle of an empty street at midnight, quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat, loud enough to drown out everything else. People can't stand it, because silence doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter, doesn't sugarcoat. It's raw, brutal, and honest. And that's the problem. People don't want honesty. They want distraction. But you're different. You're here because you felt it. That gnawing emptiness when the noise fades and you're left alone with nothing but yourself. That's why you're lost, isn't it? You've been running from silence your whole life. Every scream, every fight, every fake smile. It's all been to drown out the one voice you're too afraid to hear yours. Let me tell you something about silence. It's an art, a weapon. Even it's not just the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. The world doesn't want you to master it because a silent person is dangerous. Why? Because silence forces them to confront their own weaknesses. Look at the people around you. Always talking, always moving, always pretending. They fill their days with noise, with distractions, with anything that keeps them from facing the truth about who they are. But silence strips them bare. It exposes the cracks, the lies, the fears they bury so deep. Even they forget they exist. Take this, for example. When someone wrongs you, what's the first thing you want to do? Shout, fight back, prove them wrong. That's the noise talking. But silence is a slap in the face they never see coming. You don't need to scream to be heard. Let your absence do the talking. Walk away and watch how they crumble under the weight of their own guilt. You see, silence is power. It's control. It's the ability to hold your tongue when every part of you wants to lash out. It's standing still while the world around you burns, knowing that you don't owe anyone an explanation. Because here's the truth. Not everyone deserves your words. Not everyone deserves a piece of you. Think about it. Every word you speak, every emotion you show, it's a transaction. And most people, they're not worth the price. They'll take your vulnerability, twist it, and use it against you. They'll smile to your face while plotting your downfall, behind your back, and you'll keep giving, keep bleeding, because you think it'll make them see you, respect you, love you. But it won't. The only thing they respect is strength and silence. Silence is strength. It's the loudest scream, the sharpest blade. It's the ability to endure without breaking, to stand tall without needing validation. But here's the catch. Silence isn't easy. It's not something you can fake. It's earned through pain, through loss, through night so dark you forget what light looks like. It's in the moments when you want to scream, to fight, to make the world see your pain, but you don't. It's in the moments when you choose to walk away, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to let go. Do you know what silence teaches you? Patience, resilience, the art of watching and waiting while everyone else is busy shouting over each other. You're observing, learning, plotting. Because silence isn't just about staying quiet. It's about listening. Listening to the lies people tell, to the fears they try to hide. And when the time comes when you've seen enough, heard enough, that's when you strike. Not with words, not with anger, but with action. Quiet, calculated, devastating action. The world doesn't expect silence. It doesn't know how to handle it. That's why it's so powerful. While everyone else is busy reacting, you're creating while they're making noise. You're making moves. But here's the thing. Silence isn't just for them. It's for you. It's in the silence that you find yourself, not the version of you they've shaped with their words, their expectations, their lies. The real you. The one who doesn't need approval, doesn't need validation. The one who knows their worth. Even when the world tries to tell them otherwise, you want to master the art of being silent. Start by listening to yourself, to your instincts, to the truths you've been too afraid to face. Silence isn't weakness. It's strength. It's the foundation you build your empire on. And when they come for you, and they will, when they try to break you, to silence you, that's when you'll show them the power of silence. Because silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of unshakable strength. And you think you need their approval, don't you? Their attention, their validation, their pathetic little pats on the back to tell you you're doing something right. But let me tell you something. They'll never admit they don't care. They never did. See, people are selfish by nature. They take and take until there's nothing left of you but scraps. And then they blame you for not being enough. They'll tell you it's your fault they walked away. That you were too much, too little, too you. But silence doesn't play that game. Silence is the shield you use to guard yourself from their poison. It's the wall you build, brick by brick, until their words can't touch you. Because that's all they have. Words, empty, meaningless words, meant to tear you down, to keep you in your place. Let me ask you this. When was the last time someone truly listened to you? Not to respond, not to argue, but to understand. I'll tell you when: never. Because they don't want to understand. Understanding means effort, and effort is the one thing people won't give unless there's something in it for them. You think I'm wrong? Look around. Look at the people who claim to love you, to support you. Where are they when you're drowning? When the weight of the world is crushing your chest and you can barely breathe nowhere? They're too busy living their lives, chasing their dreams, leaving you to rot in the silence they fear so much. But here's the irony. It's in that silence that you find freedom. The freedom to let go of their expectations, their judgments, their lies, to become something more than the broken image they've painted of you. You think silence is lonely, maybe, but it's also liberating. It's the space where you can rebuild yourself piece by jagged piece until you're no longer a victim of their noise. Let me tell you a story. There was a man once, a nobody, just like you. He spent his life trying to fit in, trying to be what everyone else wanted him to be. He smiled when he wanted to cry, laughed when he wanted to scream. And for what? So they'd like him, respect him. But one day he stopped. He stopped talking, stopped trying, stopped caring. He let the silence consume him, let it teach him what the noise had hidden for so long. And you know what he found? Strength, clarity, purpose. They called him crazy, said he was dangerous, unpredictable. And they were right, because a man who doesn't need their approval is the most dangerous man of all. He doesn't play by their rules, doesn't dance to their tune. He's free. You want to be free? Stop listening to them. Stop letting their noise dictate your life. Embrace the silence. Let it show you who you really are, what you're really capable of. Because here's the truth. They'll never tell you. The world doesn't care about you. Not really. It only cares about what you can do for it, what you can give. And the moment you stop giving, it moves on just like that. Why waste your time on people who don't matter? Why break yourself trying to please a world that will never be satisfied? Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them mock you, laugh at you, hate you. Stay silent. Let your actions speak louder than their words ever could. Let your success drown out their doubts. Your strength, silence their lies. But don't mistake silence for weakness. Silence is a weapon, and like any weapon, it must be wielded with precision. It's not about shutting up and taking it. It's about choosing when to strike, when to speak, when to let the world hear your voice. And when that moment comes, When you finally break your silence, make sure it's deafening. Make sure it's the kind of noise they can't ignore, the kind that echoes long after you're gone. You think I'm cruel? Maybe I am, but the world isn't kind. It doesn't care about your feelings, your dreams, your pain. It'll chew you up and spit you out without a second thought. And if you don't learn to master the silence, to use it to your advantage, you'll be just another casual. Difficulty of its indifference. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep running, keep hiding, keep drowning in the noise? Or are you going to stand up, embrace the silence, and show them what you're really made of? The choice is yours. But remember, this silence is an art, and like any art, it requires discipline, patience, and a willingness to face the truth, not their truth, your truth. And when you do, when you finally master the art of being silent, you'll be unstoppable. You know, silence isn't just about shutting up. It's about understanding. Understanding yourself, understanding others, and most importantly, understanding the game. Because life, my friend, is one big, ugly game. And the ones who win, they're not the loudest. They're the ones who know how to watch, how to wait, how to let their silence do the heavy lifting. Let me explain. Every time you open your mouth, you're giving away a piece of yourself. Your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions, they're all out in the open, ripe for the taking. And the world, oh, it's full of vultures waiting to pick you apart. But if you stay silent, if you keep them guessing, suddenly, you've got the upper hand. Take a chessboard, for example. The most powerful piece isn't the queen. It's the one who controls the board. The one who sits in silence, observing every move, plotting every counter. That's who you need to be the player, not the pawn. But silence isn't just a strategy. It's a mirror. It forces people to see themselves for who they really are. You ever notice how uncomfortable people get when you don't respond? How they fidget, stammer, fill the air with useless chatter? That's because silence reveals the truth, and truth, it's the one thing people can't handle. Imagine this. Someone insults you, tries to tear you down, make you feel small. Your instinct is to fight back right, to prove them wrong. But what if you didn't? What if you just stared, silent, calm, unmoved? You think they'd feel powerful? No, they'd feel exposed, vulnerable. Because silence, my friend, is the loudest statement you can make. But here's the kicker. Silence isn't just for them. It's for you. It's a weapon, yes, but it's also a shield. A way to protect yourself from the chaos, the noise, the constant pull of a world that wants to break you. Think about the last time you were truly silent. Not just quiet, but silent. No distractions, no thoughts racing through your head. Just you, and the stillness feels like staring into a void, doesn't it? That's because silence strips away everything you've been hiding behind. All the excuses, the lies, the masks. It forces you to confront the one person you've been running from your whole life. Yourself. And that's the hardest battle of all. Because the truth is, most people don't want to know who they really are. They're too scared of what they'll find. But you're different. You're here because you're tired of running. Because deep down, you know that silence is the only way out. But let me warn you, silence isn't for the weak. It's not for the ones who need constant validation, who crumble at the first sign of doubt. Silence is for the strong, the ones who can sit alone in the dark, face their demons and come out stronger. And that's the trick, isn't it? To take the pain, the fear, the doubt, and turn it into something powerful. To let it fuel you, not break you. Because the world will try to break you. It'll throw everything it has at you. Loss, betrayal, failure. And when it does, that's when you stay silent. Not because you've given up, but because you're planning your next move. You ever see a lion before it attacks? It doesn't roar, doesn't growl. It waits silent, still watching. And when the moment is right, that's when it strikes. Quick, precise, lethal. That's what silence teaches you. Patience, discipline, control. It's not about ignoring the noise. It's about rising above it. About becoming something they can't predict, can't manipulate, can't defeat. But don't get me wrong. Silence isn't about isolation. It's not about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about choosing when to speak, when to act, when to let them hear your voice. Because when you do, when you finally break your silence, it won't just be noise, it'll be a symphony. You want to master the art of being silent. Start by listening not just to the world, but to yourself, to the voice inside you that's been drowned out by the noise for so long. Because that voice, that's your strength, your truth, your power. And when you learn to embrace it, to let it guide you, that's when you become unstoppable. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep shouting into the void, hoping someone, anyone will hear you? Or are you going to step into the silence and finally hear yourself? The choice is yours. But remember this, silence isn't just an art, it's a revolution. And revolutions don't start with noise, they start with a whisper. You think silence is easy? No. Silence is brutal. It's a fight, a war waged within yourself. Every second your instincts scream at you to break it, to lash out, to make them hear you. But that's the trap. The moment you break, the moment you give in, they win. They expect you to crack. They want you to because your silence, it scares them. It unnerves them. They don't know what's happening behind those quiet eyes of yours, and that terrifies them. They can't manipulate what they don't understand, can't control what they can't predict. You know what silence does? It makes you a mystery, a puzzle they can't solve, and people hate what they can't understand. They'll call you cold, heartless, indifferent. Let them, their words mean nothing. What matters is that they don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're capable of. But silence isn't just about them. It's about you. It's about learning to hold your ground, to stay still when the world is spinning out of control. It's about finding strength in the stillness, in the void. You see, most people think strength is about action, about doing, saying, fighting. But real strength, it's in the waiting, in the quiet moments when everything inside you is screaming to act. But you don't. You watch, you learn, you bide your time, and when the moment comes, that's when you move. Not a second before? Think about it. A storm doesn't announce itself with a whisper. It builds in silence, growing, gathering power, and when it finally hits, it's unstoppable. That's what you are. A storm waiting to happen. A force of nature they'll never see coming. But only if you embrace the silence. Only if you let it mold you, shape you, teach you. But don't think for a second that silence is passive. It's not about sitting back and letting life happen to you. Silence is active. It's intentional. It's the decision to withhold, to conserve, to channel your energy where it matters. You don't speak because they deserve your words. You speak because your words matter. And when you choose to remain silent, that's when you hold the most power. Because in silence, you force them to fill the void, to stumble, to overthink, to reveal their hand. You ever notice how people can't stop themselves from talking when you're silent? It's like they can't handle the emptiness, the lack of noise, so they fill it with lies, with excuses, with confessions they didn't mean to make. That's your advantage. Your silence forces them to reveal themselves, to show you who they really are. And when they do, that's when you strike. But don't think for a second that silence is easy. It's not. It's hard. It's painful. It's lonely. Because silence doesn't just reveal their truths. It reveals yours in the quiet. You'll face your fears, your doubts, your failures. You'll see every scar, every mistake, every moment you wish you could take back. And it'll hurt. Oh, it'll hurt. But that's the point. Pain is the price of growth. You don't get stronger without breaking. Don't learn without failing. Don't rise without falling. And silence. Silence is the crucible where you're forged. But here's the beauty of it. When you come out the other side, you're untouchable. The noise doesn't bother you anymore. The lies, the judgments, the doubts, they bounce off you like rain on stone because you faced the worst of it. You faced yourself, and nothing they say or do can compare to that. You want to know the secret to mastering silence. It's not just about closing your mouth. It's about opening your mind. It's about listening, not just to them, but to yourself. Listen to the world, to the patterns, to the rhythms, every lie, every betrayal, every broken promise. They all follow the same script. Learn it, understand it, use it, and listen to yourself, to the voice inside you that knows the truth, even when the world tries to drown it out. That voice is your compass, your guide. Trust it. But most importantly, learn to love the silence. Not fear it, not resent it, but embrace it. Because in the silence, you'll find the strength to stand alone, the clarity to see through the lies, the power to be more than they ever thought you could be. The world will tell you that silence is weakness, that it's better to shout, to fight, to make noise. They'll tell you that if you're silent, you'll be forgotten. But that's the biggest lie of all. The ones who are remembered, the ones who leave a mark, who change the game, they're not the loudest. They're the ones who know when to speak, when to act, when to let their silence echo louder than any scream ever could. Be silent, be still, be patient. Let the world underestimate you. Let them think you're weak, that you're nothing, and when the time comes, show them the power of silence. You want to know the most dangerous thing about silence? It's the way it changes you. It's not just a skill, it's a transformation. A silent person is not the same as they were before. Silence strips away the weak parts, the fragile pieces. It leaves you with nothing but steel. Let me tell you something no one else will. The person who masters silence is reborn. You're no longer a slave to your emotions, no longer a puppet to their strings. You become something they can't define, can't control, can't break, but don't think for a second it's easy. Silence will test you. It will push you to the edge, force you to confront every part of yourself you've been running from, the lies you've told yourself, the fears you've buried, the dreams you've abandoned. It will all come rushing back in the quiet. And that's the real challenge, isn't it? Facing yourself. Because the truth is, you're not afraid of silence. You're afraid of what it reveals. You're afraid of the person you'll meet in the silence. The one who doesn't need their approval, their validation, their love. The one who's stronger than the world wants you to believe you see. The world thrives on noise. It uses it to distract you, to control you. It drowns you in lies and fear and doubt. But silence cuts through it all. It's a scalpel carving away the illusions until only the truth remains. And the truth is that you don't need them. Not their opinions, not their praise, not their acceptance. You've been giving them power they don't deserve, letting their words dictate your worth. But in the silence, you see it for what it is, a lie. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who lived his whole life in the shadow of others. He did what they told him, became what they wanted him to be. And for a while, it worked. He was loved, respected, admired. But then one day, it all fell apart. The people he trusted betrayed him. The ones he loved abandoned him. And the constant noise that had filled his life, it was gone. He was left with nothing but silence. At first, it was unbearable. The silence felt like a prison, a punishment. But then slowly, he began to listen not to the lies they told him, but to the voice inside himself. And you know what? He realized that he was stronger alone than he ever was with them. That their noise had been holding him back, keeping him from becoming who he was meant to be. So he embraced the silence. He let it teach him, shape him, harden him. And when he finally stepped back into the world, he wasn't the same. He didn't need their approval, their validation, their love. He was free. That's the power of silence. It frees you from the chains they've wrapped around you. It shows you that you don't need them, you never did. But don't think for a second that they'll let you go easily. The moment you embrace silence, the moment you stop playing their game, they'll come for you. They'll call you cold, cruel, unfeeling. They'll try to drag you back into the noise, into their chaos. Let them try. Let them scream. Let them beg. Let them threaten. Stay silent. Watch as they unravel as their own noise consumes them. Because silence isn't just a shield, it's a mirror. It forces them to see themselves for who they really are and what they see. It terrifies them. But silence isn't just for them. It's for you. It's your sanctuary, your weapon, your truth in the silence. You find clarity. You see the world for what it is, and yourself for who you are. And who are you? You're not the weak, broken thing they want you to believe. You're not defined by their words, their lies, their betrayal. You're stronger than that, stronger than them. But strength isn't enough. You need control, discipline, the ability to hold your ground when everything inside you wants to break. That's what silence teaches you. It teaches you to endure, to wait, to watch. And when the time comes to strike, not with anger, not with desperation, but with precision. The world doesn't expect silence. It doesn't know how to handle it. That's why it's so powerful. So use it. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're weak, that you've given up. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them mock you. And when they least expect it, that's when you show them what silence can do. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. It's the refusal to be broken, to be controlled, to be silenced. Remember this, the art of being silent isn't about hiding. It's about becoming stronger, smarter, better. It's about mastering yourself so the world can never master you. So embrace the silence. Let it change you, shape you, free you. And when the time comes to break it, make sure your voice is louder than their screams. Make sure they remember